My hands would not stop shaking as I stood behind the glass wall of the council chamber, watching 9 alien delegates raise their limbs in a vote that would end everything my people had built. I was only an aide, a translator, a nobody in a borrowed uniform, but I knew what that vote meant before the final light turned red. Humanity was about to lose the one thing we had left. Let me take you back before that moment so you understand why my chest felt like it was made of ice. 80 years ago, humanity was found by the wider galaxy, and the galaxy did not welcome us. They studied our history, our wars, our weapons, and they were afraid. The Council, the great alliance of civilized worlds, labeled us a danger before we ever said a single word to them. They allowed us to join their community, only if we agreed to strict limits. No weapons beyond simple defense. No new colonies outside our own star system. No fleet of our own. We accepted every rule because the alternative was isolation, or worse. We wanted so badly to belong that we swallowed our pride and became the quiet, obedient newcomers of the galaxy. There was one task nobody else wanted, and it fell to us almost by accident. Deep in a forgotten corner of space, there stood an ancient structure, older than any recorded civilization. The Council called it a relic, empty and lifeless, a monument left behind by a species known only as the Silence. Nobody knew where they came from or why they vanished. Nobody cared enough to guard the site, so humanity volunteered. We sent engineers and caretakers to maintain that lonely place, cleaning its halls, protecting its walls, treating it with more respect than anyone had shown us. It became a strange kind of tradition, a small human outpost, quiet and proud, watching over something greater than themselves. My name is Daniel Hart, and I grew up hearing stories about that outpost from my older sister Grace, who served there for years. She used to say the structure felt alive somehow, like it was listening. I never believed her until the day everything changed. The trouble began when the Council discovered a valuable system near our territory, rich in resources everyone wanted. It happened to sit close to a small human settlement, a peaceful research colony filled with families, scientists, and teachers. The Council decided the system needed to be reorganized for the benefit of all species, and that meant our people had to leave. They called it correction. They called it fairness. I called it the moment humanity's patience finally reached its limit. I was assigned to accompany the enforcement team as a translator, hoping I could help keep things calm. The commanding officer was a towering alien named Vorin Kale, a leader from a species that had never trusted humans since the day we arrived in the galaxy. He believed we were dangerous by nature, hiding behind good manners. He wanted to prove a point, and our small colony became his stage. When we landed, the settlement was peaceful. Children were playing near a garden. Teachers were guiding students through a lesson under twin suns. Nobody expected a fleet to descend on them with orders to leave immediately or be forcibly removed. I watched as Vorin Kale's soldiers pushed through the colony with impatience, ignoring pleas from frightened families. An elderly woman named Margaret Ellis tried to explain that her husband was too sick to be moved that quickly. She was pushed aside without a second thought. A young father named Oliver Bennett begged for a single hour to gather medicine for his daughter. He was refused. I stood there, translating words that meant nothing to men who had already decided humanity did not deserve patience. Then came the moment that broke something deep inside me. In the confusion, a group of colonists tried to protect the town's small clinic, afraid their sick and elderly would be left behind. Vorin Kale's soldiers moved forward without listening, and several innocent people were hurt badly enough that the ground itself seemed to hold its breath. I remember Margaret Ellis crying out for her husband. I remember Oliver Bennett shielding his daughter with his own body. I remember silence falling over that colony like a heavy blanket, the kind of silence that comes right before something terrible becomes real. I could not stay quiet anymore. My hands trembled as I opened a comm channel to Grace, who was stationed at the ancient outpost only a few hours away by ship. I did not know what I expected her to do. I only knew that somebody needed to know what was happening. And somebody needed to remember that humanity was still made of people who cared for each other. Grace answered immediately, her voice steady despite my panic. I told her everything, my words tumbling over each other, my throat tight with fear and anger. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she said something I will never forget. She said that the old structure had a signal buried deep inside it, one the caretakers were told never to activate unless humanity faced a moment of true desperation. She said the previous caretakers believed it was nothing more than legend, a story passed down to make the job feel meaningful. But she also said that legends sometimes carry more truth than we want to admit. I begged her to try it. I told her that our people were being hurt while the council watched from a distance, deciding our fate without ever asking what we needed. Grace was quiet for a long moment, and then she told me she would do it, not because she believed it would save us, but because doing nothing felt like betrayal. I do not know exactly what she did in that ancient hall. She told me later that she placed her hand against a smooth panel that had never responded to anyone before, and she spoke plainly, almost like she was praying. She said humanity was in danger, that innocent people were being hurt by those who were supposed to protect the peace, and that if anyone or anything was listening, now was the time to answer. For a long moment, nothing happened. I stood in the middle of that suffering colony, watching soldiers separate families, feeling the last of my hope slipping away. Then the sky changed. It began as a whisper of light, faint and distant, growing brighter with every heartbeat. Every soldier stopped moving. Every colonist looked upward. Even Voron Kale, a man who feared nothing, took a step back as the horizon filled with shapes too vast and too strange to belong to any fleet catalogued by the Council. Ships unlike anything I had ever seen appeared in the sky, moving with a grace that made our most advanced technology look like toys. They did not fire a single shot. They did not need to. Their presence alone was enough to freeze every soldier in place, enough to silence every voice, enough to make the entire colony fall utterly still. A single vessel descended toward the settlement, landing without sound, without disturbing so much as a single blade of grass. A doorway opened and light poured out, gentle rather than blinding. From within, a figure emerged, tall and calm, wearing no armor, carrying no weapon, radiating a presence that made the air itself feel different. The figure spoke, and somehow every person present understood the words, though I could not explain how. The voice said that they were the ones humanity called the Silence, though that name was never truly their own. They said they had been watching quietly for a very long time, not just the outpost, but all of humanity, ever since our people first agreed to protect a place that held no meaning to anyone else. They said something that changed the way I understood my entire species. They said that true strength is not measured by weapons or fleets, but by patience, loyalty, and the willingness to care for something without expecting reward. They said that when the Council placed heavy restrictions on humanity, expecting us to fail under pressure, we had instead grown quieter, gentler, more careful with each other. They had been testing us the entire time, deciding whether our species deserved to be trusted with the truth of their existence. The figure turned toward Voron Kale, whose confidence had drained from his face entirely. They said that harming innocent people who posed no danger was the one thing they could never allow to continue unanswered. They did not threaten destruction. They did not demand blood. They simply said that his fleet would be escorted away, and that his actions would be reported honestly to the Council, allowing judgment to be decided through proper means rather than force. With a calm gesture, the ancient ships surrounded Voron Kale's vessels, gently guiding them away from the colony, without a single act of aggression. It was the most powerful thing I had ever witnessed, not because of destruction, but because of restraint. They had the ability to end everything in an instant, yet they chose control instead, showing more discipline than the very Council that had judged humanity as dangerous from the moment we were discovered. Margaret Ellis was allowed to return to her husband. Oliver Bennett held his daughter close as medical teams from the ancient ships offered gentle assistance to those who had been hurt during the chaos. For the first time in 80 years, humanity was not the one begging for mercy. We were being protected by something ancient and unimaginably powerful, simply because we had shown kindness to something no one else valued. Word of what happened spread through the galaxy faster than any official report could travel. The Council was forced to convene an emergency session, their earlier vote to relocate our colony completely forgotten in the face of something far greater than themselves. Delegates who once viewed humanity with suspicion now sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how the newest, weakest species in their community had somehow earned the attention and protection of a civilization they believed had vanished from existence. I was called before the Council myself, asked to explain everything I witnessed. I told them the truth, plainly and honestly. I told them about Margaret Ellis and her husband. I told them about Oliver Bennett and his daughter. I told them about Grace, and the moment she chose compassion over certainty. I told them that humanity had never asked for power, only fairness, and that fairness had finally found its way to us through the actions of a civilization far older than their entire alliance. The Council did not know how to respond. Their carefully built hierarchy, based on strength and fear, had been quietly challenged by something they could not intimidate or control. For the first time since our discovery, humanity was not simply tolerated. We were respected, cautiously and uncertainly, but respected all the same. I returned to Earth soon after, walking through familiar streets with a strange sense of calm I had never felt before. Grace called me that same evening, her voice tired but peaceful. She told me the ancient structure had grown quiet again, its lights dimming back into stillness, as if its purpose had been fulfilled for now. She said she did not know what the future held for humanity, But she believed we had finally proven something important, not to the council, but to ourselves. I often think back to that day, to the fear in Margaret Ellis's eyes, to the courage in Oliver Bennett's voice, to the quiet strength in my sister's decision to trust something ancient and unknown. Humanity did not rise to power through weapons or conquest. We rose through patience, through kindness, through the simple choice to protect something fragile even when no one was watching. The galaxy learned that day that strength wearing a gentle face can still shake the foundations of the mightiest powers. Humanity did not conquer the stars through force. We earned our place through compassion, and somewhere out among the ancient ruins we once called forgotten, something far older than the council itself had been watching all along, waiting patiently for the moment we proved we were worthy of an answer. And when that moment came, the ancient fleet did not come to destroy. It came to remind the galaxy what true strength really means.